Hi there, very good morning. Welcome to Weekly. Now you're watching Market Cafe with me, Tanushka Sarkar and Ankita Saxena. Over the next 1 hour, we'll take you through all the domestic and global cues that you need to watch out for ahead of today's trading session on the Lal Street. So let's get started with an eye on the globe first and see how Wall Street fared overnight. Well, the markets closed quite high on Monday. The U.S. markets with both the S&P 500 and Nasdaq hitting record levels. The S&P 500 finished above 6,600 for the first time, while the Nasdaq gained nearly 1%. The Dow also ended modestly higher. Now, the street cheered President Donald Trump's upbeat remarks on the U.S.-China trade talks, with big tech names driving the rally. Alphabet jumped more than 4%, and Tesla that added over 3%. Moving on now, all eyes are going to be on the Federal Reserve. The central bank is widely expected to deliver a quarter-point rate cut on Wednesday, that is tomorrow, but markets will closely listen to Chair Jerome Powell's guidance on the path ahead. Meanwhile, key U.S. data on retail sales, import prices, housing and business inventories will be released later today. That is something that the street is watching out for. So that's about the U.S. market. A pretty good day coming in. But Ankita, how are things on the crude front?
Well, absolutely, Kanishka. As far as crude is concerned, the oil is supposed to be steady this morning after 2 days of gains that we saw coming in. Now, Brent is trading above the $67 a barrel, while the WTI holds near the $63 a barrel. The traders are weighing the risk of fresh Western sanctions on Russian supplies against the prospects of a looming global glut. Now, a faster than expected OPEC Plus supply return has already prompted the IEA to forecast a record oversupply next year. Now, gold, remember, is hovering around its record highs, just under $3,680 an ounce. So investors are betting on the Federal Reserve's rate cut this week, with expectations of further easing ahead. Now, the weaker U.S. dollar and geopolitical tensions continue to add momentum to the bullion, keeping, of course, it on its strongest year on record. So gold is hovering there, it's a record high, but oil prices seem to have stabilized after that uptick that we saw coming in on the back of that global glut that we have been talking about. And well, it seems like there's no stopping for the stellar run that gold has been seeing, like I mentioned. The yellow metal is continuing to its a record-winning streak as geopolitical tensions remain and investors price in the Fed cuts. My colleague Ashesha is now joining us to give us the details of the prices of gold. Ashesha, take it away.
Well, yes, another day and another record high for the yellow metal. In fact, it is trading flat with a quite bit of positive bias today. But remember, it ended nearly 1% higher in trade yesterday, and it has now crossed that $3,680 per ounce mark in the global market. It was gaining for the fourth straight week last week, and it ended nearly 1.5% higher. So that's the kind of move that we're seeing in the yellow metal market. Now, remember, traders are penciling in a 25 basis point rate cut in the meeting that is scheduled to happen today and tomorrow. The outcome is of which is expected later tomorrow. So all eyes are on that, but just not about the Federal Reserve's outcome tomorrow, but traders are penciling in many more rate cuts for the rest of this calendar year as well. Remember, weak labor market data that came in over the last few weeks, and no major surprises on inflation front. These are the two parameters which Fed will be watching out for, and that is precisely the reason Street is expecting a 25 basis point rate cut. Now, apart from that, US dollar is also trading at the lowest level in the last 7 weeks. So these are primarily the reasons why gold continues to trade at record high levels. Let's also take a look at how gold has performed over the last few years. This year so far, gold has already shot up as much as 38%. Following a 27% uptick that we had seen in calendar year 2024 and nearly 13% uptick in calendar year 2023. Remember, brokerage houses continue to remain very positive. In fact, Morgan Stanley has now given a target of $3,800 per ounce by the fourth quarter of FY25. So yes, brokerage houses continue to remain positive, although some brokerage houses have given a target price which is now below the current spot rate because of the kind of up move that we're seeing. So yes, gold at a fresh record high. In fact, it has now crossed that $3,680 per ounce mark in the global market.
That's right, Ashesha. Another day, another record high for gold. That's the kind of move that we are picking up for the yellow metal. But moving on to some more global stories then. U.S. President Donald Trump says that trade talks with China have gone very well. hinting that a deal has been struck over TikTok's ownership as well. Now, in a Truth Social post, he suggested that young Americans will be very happy with the outcome. Trump has also confirmed that he'll speak with Chinese President Xi Jinping on Friday, signaling that ongoing negotiations and a possible breakthrough in U.S.-China tech tensions. In fact, U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. But before we get to his comments, let's listen in to the comments that are coming from Trump.
It's a very big meeting with China, and they're treating us with respect. We treat them with respect too, but it was very successful. And on top of it, we have what could be a very good deal. Don't forget, I've had more people say, could you try and keep TikTok alive? I use TikTok. We had a very good meeting with China. I was surprised. I didn't expect it to that extent. And I'm going to speak again with President Xi on Friday, and I think that'll confirm things up.
And when U.S. Secretary Scott Bessent also reaffirmed the framework, saying they have recommended ownership changing to American hands. Let's listen in.
We have a framework for a TikTok deal. The two leaders, President Trump and Party Chair Xi, will speak on Friday to complete the deal, but we do have a framework for a deal with TikTok. We had very good discussions. We preferred to keep the discussions on TikTok. We will be holding trade negotiations in about a month again at a different location. But we talked about many things that we might do in the future.
The thing that is notable, I mean, U.S.-China negotiations tend to go on for months and years without result.
All right, then shifting focus to how things are going with India. Now, India-US set stage for fresh talks, trade talks, as chief negotiator Brendan Lynch arrives in Delhi. The day-long talks to be held are to be held with. They will explore convergence to reach a pact. My colleague Sumita Karir is now joining us with more details over there.
That's right. United States Chief Negotiator Brendan Lynch is in India. He arrived in India last night, and today, for the entire day, there's going to be a day full of discussions and deliberations on trade issues between the United States and India. And commerce officials have also stated that India and the United States, they remain engaged on trade, ministerial and diplomatic levels. In fact, they've also stated that India and the United States have been engaged virtually on a weekly basis. So there's been no pause as far as talks between both the sides are concerned. What essentially could be expected? Well, the United States could be pushing for more reduction in oil and defense purchases from Russia. These talks are essentially to explore convergence between both the sides to reach an agreement. Remember, both the leaders had decided to finalize the first tranche of the bilateral trade agreement by fall this year. Minister Piyush Goyal also stated a couple of days back that they are hoping to finalize an agreement soon, essentially by November or so, is essentially what he stated. So this round is not really an official meeting round. This round is just to explore convergences, the comfort levels of both the sides, and after which a sixth round essentially will be finalized. Remember, the sixth round was supposed to happen on August 25th here in India, but it got postponed due to Donald Trump's elevated 25% tariffs for India buying Russian energy. And the sixth round of talks, now we're given to understand, are going to be decided after this meeting gets over. But let's also understand the backdrop a bit. Even though Donald Trump may have softened his stance on India, and he may have called the Indian Prime Minister a great Prime Minister, a great friend, and the fact that negotiations between both the sides are going on, Howard Lutnick, in fact, amped up pressure on India ahead of these talks, and he stated that they sell everything to us, but yet block our products with tariffs. So definitely that sort of pressure, getting built up by Donald Trump's team. However, Donald Trump has softened his stance, something that's also been reciprocated by the Indian Prime Minister. Remains to be seen what gets decided at this meeting and when the next round of talks, the sixth round of talks, they get decided, because that will finally decide the outcome of the deadline that both the sides are essentially looking at, which is by fall.
And well, we are also picking up from exclusive sources that trade negotiations between India and EU are in a sweet spot, and that the possibility of both the nations reaching an early harvest deal is on the cards. Sumita is joining us yet again with the contours of that. Sumita, take it away.
That's right. Sources are suggesting that India and the European Union are open to the possibility of an early harvest deal as negotiations remain in a sweet spot, and India and the European Union are essentially eyeing a comprehensive trade deal by the year end. However, there is a possibility that an early harvest deal could also be arrived at, and almost all issues pertaining to the EU FTA have been resolved, and sources also suggest that there's been significant convergence that's been achieved on market access, wine, dairy, autos and non-tariff barriers. And sources also suggest that EU's nod for India's fisheries exports will essentially offset any loss that exporters could have faced due to United States tariffs, in fact elevated tariffs from the United States. Remember, the 13th round of negotiations was held in New Delhi from 8th till the 12th of September 2025. And the next round of negotiations are likely to happen in Brussels. These talks are happening at a time when there's turbulence that's been created due to Donald Trump's tariffs, more so specifically 50% tariffs on India. And just last week, we also saw EU's Trade Commissioner, Agriculture Commissioner as well, visited India last week. So there is keenness on both the sides to finalize this trade deal by year end. However, there will be an openness in case of an early harvest deal. And if we go back to Ursula von der Leyen, the European Commission President, she stated just a couple of days back that we need to double down on diversification and partnerships as the global trading system is crumbling, and hence they are finalizing negotiations for a historic trade deal with India, she said.
All right, thanks, Sumita, for getting us the latest on India and EU FTA talks. But moving on, now Donald Trump is yet again pressuring Federal Reserve, this time demanding a bigger rate cut as the central bank meeting is underway. Now, in a fiery post, he said that lower rates would supercharge the housing market and warned that Fed Chair Jerome Powell against being too late when it comes to the rate cuts. In fact, the markets are also very closely watching as the Fed weighs balancing inflation control with political pressure. All eyes, of course, are going to be on the much-awaited FOMC meeting where the street is anticipating the first rate cut of 25 basis points this year. My colleague Varun Dubey is standing by to tell us what more the street is expecting. Varun, over to you.
Well, definitely the FOMC meeting would start today and the decision would come tomorrow night as per Indian Standard Time, and it will impact our market on the Thursday morning. But yes, people are expecting a rate cut this time. In fact, the Reuters poll of 107 economists, out of the 107 economists, 105 are actually expecting a 25 basis rate cut this time. If you look at the Jackson Hole Symposium, Jerome Powell was already dovish and people were expecting a rate cut in the month of September. But now the expectation of the rate cut has actually now inched up to around 100%, where people are expecting a 25 basis rate cut this time. And markets are also, anticipating or factoring in a 25 basis rate cut this time, because if you look at the US markets, they are inching towards the all-time high levels. In fact, this is not going to be the only time when you're going to see a rate cut. 60% of the respondents, that is 64 people out of the 107 economists, are actually expecting a 50 basis point rate cut but by the year end of 2025, that is the calendar year end. No doubt there are inflation issues which could, the inflation could actually inch up because of the tariffs, but also Fed will look at the unemployment data, which is actually rising on a month-on-month basis. So definitely there are issues with inflation, but the other economic data are actually suggesting towards a rate cut, not only now, but also towards the year end. In fact, there are also people who are expecting a total 75 basis point rate cut till the next year, and the overall Fed rate range would reach by around 3 to 3.25% from the current 4.25 to 4.5%. So not only this time, but yes, there are series of rate cuts which are coming. So after 2.5 years, that is January 2023 was the last time when Fed has rate cut. The next rate cut cycle of Fed will now start with this time a 25 basis rate cut is given.
All right, so here's waiting out for the Fed rate cut that the entire street has been waiting for. But let's move on to the Tesla shares that have climbed after CEO Elon Musk disclosed a rare $1 billion purchase for company stock is largest insider buy ever. The move, revealed in a CES filing, marks Musk's first open market purchase since 2020 and was seen by investors as a strong vote of confidence. Tesla stock gained more than 3% last evening.
Next up, Alphabet has officially joined the $3 trillion club, becoming the fourth US company to hit the milestone after a 4% stock surge on Monday. The rally follows a favorable antitrust ruling that spared Google from severe penalties, easing investor concern. Shares are now up more than 30% this year, outpacing the Nasdaq.
And while Trump is pushing to end quarterly earnings reports, proposing companies switch to semi-annual disclosures instead, he argues the change would cut costs and let the executives focus on long-term growth. The SEC confirmed it's reviewing the idea, which echoes calls from business leaders like Warren Buffett and Jamie Dimon.
Our officials say that Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook did not violate property tax rules on her Michigan home, countering Trump administration claims of mortgage fraud. Now, the city's review found that Cook's primary residence exemption remains valid even with periods of absence or short-term rentals. Next up, Jack Ma has returned to Alibaba with a new vigor, reasserting his influence after years of retreat during China's tech crackdown. One sideline, Jack Ma is now backing aggressive price wars with rivals JD.com and Mutin while pushing billions into AI development. His presence has boosted morale inside Alibaba, but Beijing is watching very closely, wary of renewed risks.
And well, with that, it's time for a quick breather. Don't go anywhere. After the break, we'll get you more updates on the market. Stay tuned. And in the red with a negative bias, with a downtick of 7 odd points, very flat start, but with a negative bias. But let's look at Asian markets. Now, Japan's benchmark Nikkei has surpassed the 45,000 mark for the first time. That's leading the gains in Asia Pacific markets as of today, after Donald Trump said that US-China trade negotiations in Spain is progressing well. So that is doing well, and of course we have the talks going on. They were definitely overshadowing by the framework deal regarding the divestment of Chinese-owned TikTok that was announced by Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. But as of now, we can see a sea of green coming in on the Asian markets. S&P ASX 200 is trading up 0.2%. Hang Seng is trading up 0.4%. Kospi right now is up almost 1%. So Kospi is actually leading from the front right now. Nikkei is up 0.2%, and Shanghai is also trading up 0.2%. So gains coming in across the Asia Pacific markets as of now. Even though Nifty is implying a rather muted start with a negative bias.
Absolutely. So we are penciling in a very flat for the Indian markets today. But here's a quick look at how the markets fared yesterday. Now, the Nifty gave up 8-day gaining streak as the sell-off in IT and pharma space intensified. Now, the Nifty ended the day below that 25,100 mark. Meanwhile, banking stocks managed to end in the green. Now, let's go to Snehi to get us more details of yesterday's market action roundup.
Well, yes, absolutely. Range-bound trade-off day is what we've seen for our market. What started as incrementally positive ended incrementally negative for our market. We've touched up around that 25,065 thereabouts, that mark thereabouts. On the Nifty, you have similar cuts coming in on Sensex, so 0.1% cut coming in on the Sensex as well. If you take a look at the broader end of the market, the real outperformance lies there because Nifty mid-cap did very well. It was actually the small-cap space that showed all the exuberance of 0.8% and outperforming the entire breadth of the market. Nifty Bank too was absolutely flat, but with a hint of a positive bias, so did pretty okay for itself. It was names like Jio Financial, Eternal, Bajaj Finance, Ultratech, Bajaj Auto that were the top Nifty gainers. Very nominal gains coming in. On the flip side, from the Nifty losers that maintained some pressure on the index, you had Asian Paints, Cipla, M&M, Shriram Finance, Dr. Reddy's, Infosys and Aisha that were lower by about 1.5%, and continue to weigh on the index overall. Sectorally, it was the day of the real estate stocks. Anant Raj was up about 10% at close, led by the news that the government is mulling a tax break on data centers for at least 20 years. So positive news for Anant Raj. Other than that, some peers like DLF, Prestige, Sobha, Oberoi Realty were all doing well from the real estate pack. Following that, you had positive moves coming in from PSU banks, energy, bank, financial services,
services, metals and FMCG on the flat line. On the flip side, slight pressure on auto, IT and pharma. So names like Persistent, Infosys, TCS, Coforge in the IT sector. And from the pharma space, you had names like Natco Pharma, Torrent Pharma, Zydus, Ipca Labs, Gland and Laurus Labs that were under some pressure. All in all, other than that, railway stocks were doing very well in trade. You had the likes of RVNL, Ircon, IRCTC, all of them did very well. Railtel also, all of them have done very well in trade. On the flip side, some pressure on names like Garden Reach, Acme Solar, Devyani, Motherson, Astra DM, Biocon, Bandhan Bank and Asian Paints. So well, that was the way the market setup was, and all eyes are going to be on the Nifty expiry and how the market trades, given that it's such an important day.
Right, so that's how the market wrapped up. But a couple of things to watch out for before the start of today's trading session, especially the stocks that you need to keep on your radar. For that, my colleague Ashesha is now joining us with all the stocks in news. Ashesha, tell us what are the stocks we need to watch out for.
Well, yes, let's start with Adani Enterprises, and this is on the back of an order win. In fact, the company informed the exchanges that they've received letter of award for a ropeway project. This is between Sonprayag and Kedarnath in Uttarakhand. And the company will be investing about 4,100 crores in this ropeway project. So keep an eye out on Adani Enterprises. Meanwhile, shifting focus to Thyrocare then, a holding company API Holdings debt reconstruction is likely to result in creation of up to 61% stake in share pledge. So some update coming in over here. Keep an eye out on Thyrocare as well. Canara Bank, positive news where SEBI has approved IPO proposal of Canara Robeco Asset Management. Remember, the bank has been in focus for the last several trading sessions on account of this IPO. Finally, this has come through SEBI approval, so keep an eye out on this. Novoco Vistas, where the company said that they will be raising about 1,200 crores via convertible debentures. And lastly, Godavari Power and Ispat, positive news flow because the board of directors will be meeting on the 18th of September to consider fundraising plans which will be done via equity. So keep an eye out on Godavari Power and Ispat as well.
All right, thanks, Shesha, for taking us through that list. But Sharad, let's also come to you. Which are the stocks that you are tracking in today's trading session?
Well, it's more than sector-specific news. Stock-specific news flow is important today as NCC in focus. Positive news flow is there as they have received almost 2,100 crore rupees order coming in from the Water Resources Department of Bihar. Also, next stock is Zydus Life Science. Their pet brand has launched urinary and heart-care treatment products for cats and dogs. Interestingly, Maruti Suzuki also positive news flow coming in as they have started their aggressive pricing strategy. They have announced the introductory prices of the Victoris starting at 10.5 lakhs and goes up to almost 20 odd lakhs. The start of sales will be coming in from 22nd September and will be competing with Creta, Seltos, Volkswagen, Tiguan, etc. Midhani also in news, Mr. Dhatu Nigam has secured an order of almost 136 crore rupees. JSW Infra, they have also received an order from Port Authority of Kolkata and have also entered into a concession agreement for this for the next 30 years.
All right, moving on from all the stocks that you need to watch out for to the cues that you need to keep on our radar. For that, my colleague Snehi is joining us. Snehi, take it away.
Well, yes, lots of cues to watch out for. It's Tuesday, which means it's the weekly Nifty expiry, so watch out for any market volatility on the back of that. Globally from US, the retail sales will be out, and this time the retail sales will be reflecting the tariff impact on the US economy, so watch out for this metric very closely. You also have the industrial production data coming in from US, and of course the two-day Fed meeting will begin, the outcome of which will be out on 17, so watch out for that. For UK, you have jobless claims and unemployment data to watch out for, and from Eurozone, the industrial production as well as the ZEW survey, that is the survey carried out by Germany and Eurozone to talk about the health of their economies, is going to be out as well, the ZEW survey expectations. So watch out for this cue also very closely. But once again, shifting focus back home, some stocks will be in focus on the back of corporate action. Godfrey Phillips will be trading ex-bonus in the ratio 2:1, so watch out for that. Bamalori, Dixon Tech, J. Kumar Infra, Karnataka Bank and Skipper will be trading ex-dividend, and it's also going to be the last day to buy the shares of Garware High-Tech Films, KRBL, Wright, Shilpa Medicare, in case you wish to be eligible for their dividend record date. In terms of AGMs, you have ISREC Heavy Engineering, SAIL, Avas Financiers, EPAC Durable, Gokuldas, BLS International, BKG Foods, Pandana Spurti, Dilip Bilcon, and a whole host of other stocks to watch out for because their companies will be holding their annual general meetings. In terms of the primary market, then you have one IPO that will be opening for subscription, and that's Euro Pratik sale, so watch out for that. And lastly, in terms of other events, Donald Trump is going to be making his visit to the UK from the 16th to 18th, where he's also going to be meeting King Charles as well. So watch out for that and keep a close eye on all of these cues.
All right, thank you, Snehi, for taking us through that entire list of cues that we need to watch out for. But on that note, we'll take a very short break. Be right back with more news and updates coming up on the other side.
Bharti Airtel have joined BT's board as non-independent, non-executive directors. The inclusion comes on the back of 2024 announcement of Telecom czars Mittal's conglomerate acquiring 24.5% stake in BT Group for around $4 billion to become the single largest shareholder in Britain's biggest broadband and mobile company.
All right, moving on to the quick commerce space then. Now, Swiggy has launched a new app towing for affordable food delivery options, and prices on the app range from 49 rupees to a maximum of 250 rupees. My colleague Anjali is here with more updates on this front.
That's right, Swiggy has launched a brand new food delivery app focusing on the affordable segment, and this has been named Towing. This new food delivery app has been launched only in a few key areas, 4 or 5 of them in Pune, and this will have food offerings ranging from 49 rupees going just as high as rupees 250. Now, the platform fee on this app is at rupees 12, which is lower than the 15 rupee platform fee that we see on the main food delivery app of Swiggy. And the app also promises no surge fee during peak hours and the parity with offline prices from their restaurant partners. Now, this is another offering that is coming from Swiggy, focusing on the affordable segment. Remember, earlier Swiggy launched a Snack, the 10-minute delivery app, which was also a separate app, and they've also launched something called the 99 store within the main Swiggy app, which also has these affordable options. Now, according to sources within the company, Towing has been launched only as a pilot as of now, and there are no immediate plans to scale this to other cities. And speaking about why Pune has been chosen over, traditionally Bangalore is the one that is chosen for such pilots. The source tells us that Pune has a lower penetration for such offerings than Bangalore, and it also has a growing population of students as well as early career professionals. Now, these are the ones with the lower disposable income, or the exact cohort that offerings like Towing wants to cater to, and therefore Pune has been chosen as the city to launch it in. The 99 store as well as Snack will continue to remain operational within the Swiggy ecosystem, but this is the new app that has come from Swiggy, focusing just on the affordable food delivery options.
And now let's move on to some quick news fatafats then. Home Minister Amit Shah is gearing up for a crucial visit to Bihar on September 18th, aiming to boost the morale of BJP workers and strategize the upcoming assembly elections. Union Health Minister JP Nadda chaired a high-level review meeting on dengue preparedness in Delhi and the NCR. The meeting focused on prevention, early detection and effective response measures. Health officials were directed to stay alert and ensure coordinated efforts to curb the dengue cases.
All right, so those are some of the top stories that we're tracking at this hour. But on that note, we'll take a very short break. Be right back with more updates coming up on the other side.
Well, yes, Motilal Oswal has come out with a note on the banking sector, and they have said that the earnings downgrade picking up in pace, but the recovery is in sight, and they estimate a EPS CAGR of 17% over FY26 to 27 in the banking space, and BFSI consensus earning estimate have been slightly downgraded in a recent month owing to margin pressure, weak loan growth and elevated credit low cost, and consensus earning estimate for private bank were lowered by 5%, minus 14% for FY26 and 1% and minus 6% for FY27, while PSU banks saw milder revision for the same period. They say that the large diversified banks like ICICI Bank, HDFC Bank and SBI shows significant resilience in the earning with modest cut, and Motilal Oswal's for FY26 and 27 earning growth estimate are broadly in line with the consensus with 1% and 3% through more optimistic for selected mid-tier banks like RBL Bank, DCB Bank and IDFC First Bank 4% and minus 17%, and for PSB Bank like Canara Bank and Bank of Baroda due to margin stability and gain from the subsidiary sales. And Motilal Oswal top pick in the banking sector is ICICI Bank, HDFC Bank and SBI Bank, and for AU Small Finance Bank they prefer from the mid-sized bank. For ICICI Bank, HDFC Bank and SBI and AU Small Finance Bank they have given a buy rating. For ICICI Bank they have given a target price of rupees 1670, and for HDFC with target price of rupees 1150, and AU Small Finance Bank is 875.
All right, so those are the brokerage notes and what they have to say. But let's move on to a stellar week for the primary market with investors rushing into to subscribe the likes of Urban Company, Dev Accelerator, Srinagar. In fact, the demand was so high that the beauty services platform player was booked more than 100x, the highest subscription any issue has seen in this year. Now, is the IPO rush really here to stay? To decode all of that, my colleague Sharath is now joining us with the trends. Over to you, Sharath.
Primary markets is booming as you compare to a lackluster performance in the secondary markets. Of course, you look at the IPOs last week, look at the subscription numbers. Urban Company going past the 100 times mark, followed by Dev Accelerator and even Srinagar, both of them going almost 60 times, and these are large size mainboard IPOs which I am talking about. Overall, if you look at the listing day gains also, that has been spectacular in 2025. If you look at the names, Highway Infra, that's up 73% on the listing day. Recent listings include Aditya Infotech, Quadrant, GNG Electrics, and even Stallion India, where we saw significant listing day gains coming. That means in good counters, the grey market premium is on the positive side. Now let's look at the most subscribed IPOs in 2025, and the numbers are huge. Highways Infra, that was 256 times. Indofarm was 159 times. And also interestingly, Stallion India, Standard Glass, Quadrant, all of them going past the 100 times. IPO rush on the D Street, more than 10,000 crore issue size. They are expected to come, and especially in the next 3 to 4 odd months. In the 2025, Tata Capital, LG Electronics, Lenskart, Grow, and even PhonePe will make it to the list. So, of course, large issue sizes are coming, and recently SEBI also eased the minimum public shareholding norms as well. The popular IPOs, the startup IPOs which are expected to be tracked over the next 12 to 18 months, they include PhonePe, Zepto, Boat, Car Dekho, Avance Financial, and also in the list it includes Incred, PayU, Grow, and Physics Wala as well. So a lot of large IPOs, be it the tech IPOs or the non-tech IPOs, are lined up for the next 12 to 18 months. The primary market has heated up in 2025, significant numbers, 56 IPOs already there, and the positive listing, that's the number to look out. 42 of them have seen positive listing as well. So of course, FI interest is also made in the primary markets, and a lot of retail interest is still there in the primary markets, as secondary markets are still in a range-bound move.
All right, with that, it's curtains done on this edition of Market Cafe. Kanishka and I will take your leave. Thank you so much for tuning in.